Hey everyone, Steve Harris here. Our goal at Muse Themes has always been to build products that make it easier and faster for you to build websites in Muse. After talking to tons of users about how they use our templates and themes, we realized that many prefer to pull individual components out of each site rather than use the whole thing. That's why we're introducing stacks. Stacks are modular content blocks or pieces of a website that you can drag out from your library panel and stack together to build a full website. Our first stack is called HomeCo, and it's a beautiful and flexible layout that can be used to build many different types of websites. Let's get started and I'll show you how to work with this stack. First, I've downloaded the stacks file and unzipped it on my desktop. You can see here that there's three components within. There's a mulib file. Those are the individual stacks that we're going to import into our library panel. There's a folder of preview images, and if I click into that, you can see individual preview images. These are named exactly the same as what the stacks are named within the library panel. So you can go through this folder of thumbnails and preview what all of the stacks look like before you use them. The last thing in this folder is really important. It's a Muse file, and it's called the stacks base file. So to get started, let's open up the base file. So when you open up the base file, you'll see that it comes into Muse as just an empty website. But if I actually click into the home page here, you can see that it has breakpoints kind of pre-set up within. So we've got breakpoints all the way from 1200 down to 320 pixels. The master page for the site also has the breakpoints set up within, so you can see the exact same ones here. So you'll need to make sure to use this stacks base file before you start experimenting with our stacks. And the reason for that is because we've built them all to be responsive based on these breakpoints. So if you open them up in a site that doesn't have these breakpoints defined, it's not going to respond the way that we intended. In fact, it's not going to respond at all. You need the exact breakpoints that we've set up here. So to get started, let's just go back to our home page, and I'm going to zoom way out. Let's go back to even just 50%, so it's quite small there. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to import the stacks into my library panel just by double clicking on them. So when I do that, Muse says it's importing. And there on our library panel, you can see a folder for the stacks, and then within that, we've got actually 13 components here to start. So the way that a stack works is you just simply click on content and you drag it out onto the page and you drop it. And that's it. So one thing that's really important, let me undo that, is that you drop this content on one of the extreme breakpoints. So you can either do it on the 1200 breakpoint, or we've actually found it to be quite easy to do on the 320 breakpoint. And the reason for that is that you'll need to center the content within the page. So let me go to the 320 breakpoint. And let's say first we wanted to drag out a navigation. So on the bottom here, we've got some headers and some navigation. So I'm going to click this header called minimal and drag that out. And you can see there, it shows up nicely on the page. Let me zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see. So I don't really need to do any positioning on this. It seemed to come into the right spot. But you'll need to make sure to check on all the other breakpoints as well. You can see on 550 it's a little bit down. Now the interesting thing with responsive Muse is we don't have any control over where these are going to position themselves on each breakpoint. So you will need to do a little bit of manual adjustment in terms of positioning. So I'm just going to move this one to the top, like that. And let's just do the other breakpoints. So let's move that one up. And we can push that up a bit as well. And I'm sure the last one, 1200, see this one's quite a bit down, so we'll just move that up as well. One important thing to note when you're dragging these out is when you first drag one onto the canvas, so let's put something else below. Let's go in navigation. So I'm going to use the hamburger menu opaque, and we'll drag that out into the top and drop it there. So we have this nice little navigation that shows up. But notice how it's all selected right now. I'm not going to deselect that navigation. And the reason for that is because when I go to position it across all the other breakpoints, it's going to stay selected. So in case it drops itself and it's sitting over top of a button or something like that, it's a lot easier to grab if you don't deselect it. So let's move that one up to the top there. And it seems to position itself okay on these bigger breakpoints. And this one just needs some adjustment. It's coming in a little bit too high. And there. Okay, so now we have a navigation system and a header area in. So let's preview this website and see how it looks. So there, we've got a really nice kind of header area. We've got a nav with a kind of a unique hover effect here. And as we scale the browser down, we've got some nice responsive behavior. Everything seems to be shuffling nicely. And yeah, it all looks good. So this is the way that stacks work. You just continue to stack these elements below each other, and then you can go through and get all the pieces you need in for a full website. From there, you can style them as you see fit. That's completely up to you. So let's continue on adding some more elements. I'm going to go back to the 320 breakpoint, and let's add kind of an image grid. So we'll go to our library panel, and we've got one called content, and it says hover grid. So let's drag that out and drop it there. Okay, so it comes in as this kind of stack of 4 images, and I want it positioned right below that header. So let's jump to the bigger breakpoints, leaving this selected. And let's see how it positions. So this one's just a little bit too low, so let's move it up to be right there. Okay, and let's do the same thing on bigger breakpoints. Again, you may find it easier to zoom out so you have a little bit more space, just so that you can tighten these elements up. Okay, there's that one. And we'll do it one more time on our biggest breakpoint. So this one came in a little bit overlapping. So again, because we didn't deselect it on a lower breakpoint, let's just move it down, and there you go. Okay, so let's add one more element. This time I'll add the element on our desktop layout. So let's add a little bit of space here at the bottom. And I'm going to add another content area just called centered text. And so I'll drag that out and drop it here. Okay, so I'm just going to position this in the center, just like that. Now leaving it all selected, let's jump to another breakpoint and let's continue just working this into place. Okay, there's that. And bear with me, let's just do this a few more times and get it just right. There we go. So you'll notice when I jump to this 320 breakpoint that I've actually deselected these elements. And it's a little bit hard for me to grab each of them. There's kind of a lot on the page and I'm not sure what to grab. A little trick for kind of getting this out of these areas is jumping back to a breakpoint where you've already positioned it in the right spot and selecting it there. So that's nice and easy. And when we go back to our small breakpoint, you can see just the elements we need are selected. So that's a good little trick. So let's just keep dragging those down. And there, now we've got that in perfect positioning. So let's preview this site one more time. So when this loads in the browser, you can see that in just a few minutes, we've actually built a full layout that kind of looks like a full site. We've got lots of unique kind of rollover functionality. And as we begin to scale it down, all the responsive behavior we expect is there. This is going to transition to a single column and everything looks great. And if we go ahead and inspect this page in Google's Resizer tool, which gives us a better view of what the responsiveness looks like, you can see that everything is looking great. So that's how stacks work. I hope you're as excited as we are about using these to build a full site. Now keep in mind as well, this is an experimental tool for us and this is our first stack that we've released. So please send us feedback if you have any concerns or any suggestions to make these fit your workflow better. We want them to save you a ton of time. So if there are things that are slowing you down or that could be improved, please let us know, and on our next pack of stacks, we'll make those improvements for you. Thanks again for watching, and best of luck using stacks. Cheers.